At 8:03 on Friday morning, Ethan's salary reached his account. By 8:17, most of it belonged to someone else. The mortgage lender, the car company, the credit cards, the subscriptions. He earned more than ever, yet controlled less than ever. If that feels familiar, subscribe. Ethan got here one reasonable monthly payment at a time. Ethan was 38, a project manager in tech, with a steady job and 3 raises in 6 years. He lived in a good home, drove a new SUV, carried the latest phone, and took the family away after demanding months at work. Nothing about him looked reckless. The car felt safer. The larger house gave his son a room of his own. The phone added only a little to the bill. The holiday felt earned after late meetings and tired weekends. Every choice had a reason. Every payment seemed manageable. But Ethan had not bought these things with money he already owned. He had bought them with income he was still expected to earn. None of the payments looked dangerous on their own. The danger only appeared when they all began arriving at the same time. The trap began with a question Ethan heard everywhere. How much do you want to pay each month? Not, what does this car cost? Not, how much interest will you pay before it is yours? Just one comfortable number. Could he manage $70 more? Would an extra $100 make the better model possible? Would stretching the loan make the payment easier? Almost anything could look affordable. A phone became a small charge on the bill. A sofa became 12 quiet payments. A newer car became less than a few meals out. None of these choices felt large enough to threaten his future, but each one claimed part of a paycheck he had not earned yet. Then Ethan received another raise. For a few weeks, he felt the pressure ease. There was finally room in the budget. But empty space has a way of filling itself. The old car seemed unreliable. The phone plan felt limited. Another streaming service cost less than lunch. Eating out became easier after exhausting days. The house needed furniture. Their next holiday could be nicer than the last one. The extra income never had time to become savings. It became a higher monthly standard that now had to be protected. Ethan was earning more, but the amount required to keep his life running was rising beside it. By the end of each month, he was not completely broke. There was usually something left, just never enough to build an emergency fund, reduce the debt quickly, or begin investing with confidence. So he made promises. After the next raise, he would save. When the car was paid off, he would invest. When work became quieter, he would finally fix the budget. But before one payment disappeared, something else needed replacing. A laptop failed. Insurance renewed at a higher price. The car needed work. The space he was waiting for never arrived because every future dollar already had a job. And the loop became familiar. Work harder. Feel exhausted. Buy a little comfort. Add another payment. Then work harder because the payments could not stop. The problem was never one outrageous purchase. It was dozens of reasonable decisions, each quietly locking another door. For years, Ethan believed the problem was that he wasn't earning enough. Then one ordinary Tuesday showed him the real problem. On Tuesday morning, Ethan joined a company call he had almost skipped. The message was calm, polished, and brief. The business was restructuring. His role was still safe, at least for now. But 3 people from his wider team were gone before lunch. For the first time, Ethan did not look at his salary as income. He looked at it as a lifeline. That evening, he opened every account and started counting. The savings would not carry the family for long. The mortgage would still arrive. The car payment would still leave the account. The credit cards would keep charging interest. Insurance, groceries, childcare, utilities. None of them would pause because his job had. He had a good salary. What he did not have was room. And that changed the way he saw everything. The house was comfortable, but it needed his next paycheck. The SUV was reliable, but it needed his next paycheck. The life he had worked so hard to build depended on one thing continuing without interruption: his income arriving on time every month. Ethan had often thought about taking a less stressful role, but the lower salary made it feel impossible. He had considered stepping away for a few months to learn new skills, but a break in income was something the budget could not survive. He wanted more afternoons with his son, more dinners without checking email, more days that did not end with a headache. But reducing his hours meant reducing the money that held everything together. That was the hidden cost. Not only the interest, not only the fees. Debt had taken away sentences he wanted to say. I want to rest. I want to change careers. I need more time. This job is no longer right for me. From the outside, Ethan still looked successful. He had the home, the car, the job title, and the family holidays. But one change at work had revealed how thin the foundation was. That was when Ethan stopped asking how much lifestyle his salary could buy and started asking how much freedom it could protect. This is where the idea of being fake rich is often misunderstood. It does not mean that everyone with a new car, a beautiful home, or holidays is secretly broke. There is nothing wrong with enjoying what your money can support. The object is not the problem. The structure underneath it is. One person can buy a new car, keep an emergency fund, invest consistently, and carry no expensive debt. Another can drive something cheaper and still be one repair away from using a credit card. A better question is this: how quickly would your life become unstable if your income stopped? That is financial fragility. It is the distance between an ordinary problem and a financial crisis. If the washing machine breaks, do you have cash to replace it, or do you need another payment plan? If your job disappears, how many months can the bills continue? If your income falls by 15%, does the budget bend, or does it break? A life can look expensive and still be fragile. A life can look ordinary and contain enormous strength. Ethan began thinking about Marcus, a colleague who earned almost the same amount. Marcus drove an older car that had been paid off years ago. His house was smaller. He did not upgrade every time his salary increased. Each payday, money moved into savings and long-term investments before he could spend it. There was nothing impressive about Marcus's life online. After several years, Ethan still looked more successful. But Marcus could handle an unexpected bill without panic. He could leave a bad job without missing the next mortgage payment. He could refuse a project that was damaging his health. He could accept a promising role that paid less at first. When his family needed him, he could make time. Marcus was not richer because he earned more. He was richer because more of his life remained negotiable. Every fixed payment in Ethan's budget had created a minimum salary he could no longer fall below. The more expensive his lifestyle became, the more desperately he needed the job that was exhausting him. He had believed the upgrades proved his career was moving forward, but each one made him more dependent on a single paycheck. His lifestyle was not simply consuming today's income. It had already reserved tomorrow's raises. Ethan had borrowed more than money. He had borrowed time from his future self. He had borrowed energy from evenings not yet lived. He had borrowed the freedom to make choices he might one day need. So perhaps wealth needs a different definition. Maybe wealth is the number of months you can live without income before fear takes over. Maybe it is the number of decisions you can make without asking what the debt will allow. Maybe it is the ability to absorb a setback without turning it into a new loan. It can also be measured by how much of each paycheck is still yours after the required payments leave, by how many assets are growing, by how few obligations are waiting for money you have not earned yet. Real wealth is not simply the power to buy more. It is the power to pause, change direction, protect your family, and choose without immediate financial fear. Once Ethan understood that, he didn't sell everything, disappear into a tiny apartment, or stop enjoying life. He made a quieter change. Ethan did not tear his life apart. He did not sell the house, cancel every pleasure, or promise never to spend again. He started by looking closely at what his life required each month. He wrote down the mortgage, the car, the credit cards, the subscriptions, the installment plans, and the expenses that had quietly become permanent. Then he asked a different question. Not just, how much am I spending? But how much of my income has already lost its freedom before the month begins? The answer was uncomfortable, but it was useful, because now he could see what needed to change. His first goal was not to chase impressive returns. It was to build a small layer of protection. Money that could absorb a repair, a medical bill, or a difficult month without sending him back to the credit card. The right amount would depend on his income, expenses, and family circumstances. What mattered was giving ordinary problems somewhere to land. Next, Ethan chose one payment that no longer added enough value to justify its place in his future. When the car agreement ended, he kept the vehicle instead of upgrading. He canceled subscriptions he barely noticed. He stopped replacing things that still worked, and he focused extra money on the expensive consumer debt that followed him each month. He did not remove every pleasure. He created the first piece of income that no longer belonged to the past. Then came the most important part. He refused to spend that money again. Whenever a payment disappeared, the same amount moved automatically toward his emergency fund, long-term goals, retirement account, and a diversified investment plan suited to his circumstances. This was not about finding one perfect investment. It was about changing the direction of the money, from obligations that weakened him toward assets and reserves that could support him. Ethan also changed the way he measured progress. He stopped asking what he could upgrade next. He tracked how many months of expenses he had protected, how much fixed debt had disappeared, how much of each paycheck remained his to choose, and how much was moving into the future. The numbers improved slowly, but something else changed first. Work felt less frightening. A difficult meeting no longer carried the same quiet threat. He had not reached complete freedom. He had simply recovered a small piece of it. Ethan's life did not suddenly look richer, but for the first time in years, it began to feel like it belonged to him. A lifestyle can look impressive and still depend on every paycheck arriving on time. Another can look ordinary and hold something more valuable: safety, time, and choice. The goal is simple. Make sure the things you own never begin owning your future. A wealthy life is one that would still be yours if the next paycheck arrived late. Comment with the payment you would most like to remove and subscribe for more stories about real financial freedom.